Today on the show, we have Will Hurst. Will has been a business owner for 15 years. He is a serial entrepreneur in the real sense. He is a really active guy. He's owned some gyms. He owns and operates Big Little Gyms, which is a service for gym owners, which is really cool. We'll probably dive into that a little bit. He's married with 2 young kids, and near and dear to my heart, he's a mountain biker, has a very active lifestyle, and probably has one of the coolest offices of any dude that works from home that I know. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Scott. I'm super excited to be here, man. Thanks. Like, even dropped the office in there. I love it, man. That's a point of pride for me. Spent all summer in the Phoenix heat building this thing.
Well, I watched through Facebook or Instagram. I don't know which one, but I watched, and I watched in jealousy a little bit. And then you outfitted it, and my jealousy grew a little higher. Um, Actually, it's not jealousy. It's just, you should be proud of it. It's a really cool aspect. And you know, I've been chasing you for a while to get you on the podcast, so I'm pretty pumped to have this opportunity to chat about family, entrepreneurial mindset, your businesses, and all things Will Hurst and man stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your family? Because let's start there. You have 2 kids. What their names and ages, man?
Yeah, so we have Zoe and Jax. Zoe's my daughter. She's 3 3/4 ish. You know, she'll be 4 in April. And man, she's just phenomenal. For you guys that have daughters, you know what I'm talking about. It's just nothing like. I mean, don't get me wrong. My son is awesome too, but I just completely over the moon at how that relationship has evolved and how you just never expect it. My son Jax is 2, and he's still coming into his own. You know, he's just barely. He's 2, so he's just barely becoming conscious of his own existence, really. And he's just a little monster. You know, he's a little boy, and at this point, he just does little boy stuff and likes to Hulk smash everything, and that's his MO. And then my wife Erin, my amazing wife Erin, who's definitely the anchor and the rock that holds it all together. We've been together 2007, so. It's been 13 years. We've been on the grind.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you have to give a shout out to your wife. It's where it all started. I'm pretty adamant about that. You don't get kids usually without falling in love with someone first. Not usually. We'll go with usually. But in my conversations with you, one thing I really admire is you really do lift up your wife a lot, and you talk a lot about her amazing assets, what she does, as work, as well as her own kind of ability to be a powerhouse. And I think it's just a really cool thing. I actually also want to jump into a little later, but yeah. How did you go into your first child thinking did you know you were going to have a girl, or was it a surprise?
They were both surprises. We've been together, like I said, like 13 years. A lot of people are like, oh, so you have a 4-year-old and you were together 13 years. What took you so long to have the kids? And it's like, well, we didn't really make the choice. We had, when we got married, we were like, we did what people do in their early 20s, that they fall in love and get married and want to do like the typical, white picket fence thing. And like, we're going to get married and have kids and plan the whole 9 yards and all that. But then we got married, and it was like right when we got married, I was 24. We met when I was 20. Yeah, we met when I was 23. And then we got married a couple of years later, but that was right when my entrepreneurial journey took off. This was 2007. So we all know what happened in 2007, 2008, 2009, the recession hit.
Yep.
Prior to that, I worked for like a big name dealership here in the Phoenix Valley. It was a job I got because I had moved west, and I moved west with nothing. Like, I'm a poor kid from Detroit, moved west with nothing. I hope you don't mind if I rewind back.
I love it, man. Carry on.
Okay, cool. So I moved west in my rusty 1987 Fox Body Mustang 5.0. Like so few things I could see out of my rearview mirror as I'm driving across, Panhandle of Texas to Michigan, or from Michigan to Arizona. And I get here, and I get here because my buddies are, text messaging me on their Motorola Razors back in 07, talking about how all the pretty girls here in Arizona State University. And I was like, okay, I can't handle one more minute of this Michigan slush fest in the winter. So I packed up my stuff and I left, and I ended up sleeping on their couch. I had maybe $1,000 to my name. Opened the door one day, and there's a newspaper sitting there. I flipped to the backside of the classified ads are exposed on the backside of this paper, and it says right there, like big letters, make X amount of money per year, come sell cars here at this dealership. And I was like, I grew up in Detroit working on cars. The company I worked for before I moved west was like a high performance speed shop. I used to love working on my Mustang and helping other people work on their cars, and was also really good at sales. So I could help people build their cars fast and do what was good for the company I worked for and do what was good for the client. So I was like, I help build cars. I've sold. I'm like, I could sell cars, and like, of course, the time in my head, I'm thinking, like, I'm becoming these greasy car salesman guys, Showed up there. Timing was really good. That this family that had been here in the Phoenix Valley as like the leader in automotive car sales here, the big brands, like they were like the third largest Chevy dealership in the world at some point. Like the only one that wasn't based out of Detroit was here in Phoenix. It was Henry Brown, and it's because they were like around for a while, and they had like a huge. They're Mormons. They have like a huge loyal customer base of Mormons that just like only buy from them. So they were looking for some young bucks to get out on the lot, and I walked in the door, and they're like, "Yeah, you're going to be one of the first guys on the team. Let's get after it." And yeah, I mean, like, 6 figures a year for like 5 years straight working for them, built a good book of business, and I was good at what I did. Like, I didn't just sell someone a car and take advantage of them. I sold them a car, they enjoyed the experience, and they came back and bought more cars from me. So I built the book of business, had like a little, my own like fleet internet office, in the back of the, where the big shots got to have an office. I was like, I guess I'd call myself, I was one of those guys that I didn't have to sit in the cubicles up in the front of the dealer.
Right.
Anyway, all this is going pretty good from like, 05, 06, 07, 08. And then of course the economy takes a hit. I was one of the top dogs. So I was still getting my piece of the dealership, but it wasn't, I'd been doing it for like 4 years. I was like, I don't really know if I want to keep doing this. I also saved a bunch of money. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and let's exit stage left and go do what we want to do, which is start our own business. So I started this landscape company here in the Valley, installing artificial grass. And the reason why I went back to some of the stories, because this is why we didn't have kids right away, is, I went and started this business. We grew that business to like $5 million a year installing artificial grass. We went multi-state with it. We went over to California and started a division over there because we figured we could replicate the success we had here in Arizona. The products were fairly new. This is like artificial grass. A lot of people in a lot of markets know about it now, but back 2005, 2006, it had went from like this really ugly looking, carpety looking stuff to like stuff that's pretty legit. Like the stuff people use now is pretty like legit. It looks like real grass. It's really, a lot of engineering goes into it. And so we're, kind of innovating with these new products and getting them out into the markets and being the installers that put them in. So yeah, so, running a, $5 million business when you're 25, 26, 27, like, brand new marriage, A, we're making a lot of money and we could travel and do whatever we wanted. B, like, you're too busy to settle down and have kids because we're traveling and running around and doing multi-state business things and, cutting deals with suppliers in China and Georgia where they make the turf here in the States, it just, we backburnered it. And after like 7-8 years, we're like, well, maybe we won't have kids. Maybe we'll just keep like, being Rolling Stones and just have each other, and then we moved to California to pursue that business, moved back, switched gears, started a couple of gyms, got into some real estate, like just tons of things. You know what I mean? We made enough money with that business. And also I grew that business when I was pretty young. So I made like all the mistakes, you know what I mean?
Right.
People are like, people always ask me like, who are you to consult for other businesses and like know what's right and what's wrong? It's like, well, I made all the fucking mistakes. Oh, sorry. Can I swear on this? Okay. I made all those mistakes that you can make and dealt with all the repercussions. So all the silly questions, we're obviously both in the gym owner space and we see all the silly questions people ask about their business. I'm very adamant when I respond. So I'm like, nope, done that. Don't do it this way. And like, for better, for worse, people listen and don't listen sometimes. I made all those mistakes. I also rectified all those mistakes, did it 2 or 3 other times with their businesses, did it right, saw how doing it right came together and it helped build really sustainable businesses that were profitable, and I didn't have to worry about whatever tax issues or hiring mistakes, employee issues, marketing problems, all these things, So anyways, to fast forward to how we end up with kids now, we moved back to Arizona to start our second gym. kind of play small for a while because I did that, hustle and grind for a while. I was like, I just want to move back to Phoenix, start a gym and just run that gym for like 4 or 5 years. Just do something like small and low key for a while. And kind of also like do some deep work on myself, which I did. I ended up having like a major like mental breakdown in this process, probably because I kind of like let myself fall from grace, going from like this $5 million a year business down to this like humble little local CrossFit gym. And that's like really all I was known for. That's an ego stomper, right? Like to step back, even though I chose to, when I started getting hit with the fact that I had stepped back, like, oh, this is like what I'm doing now. I'm not, I'm 31, 32, 34. And like, I'm not Steve Jobs, like I thought I would be by now with the start that I had. That's really what started to hit me. I just realized like, oh, all that momentum I built in my 20s is like kind of like went away. So I had to do some deep soul searching. And then at that same time, 4 years ago, as I was having like this mental breakdown and like all these major issues, we find out, that my wife is pregnant, like all at once, right? Like having an existential crisis, suicidal ideations, all these things, you know what I mean? All, really just hurting. And then you find out you're having a kid, and you're also not where you want to be financially. So, it all came together, but we ended up, having them, and life has really turned around since. I'm sure that them being here has been a motivating factor, even though I'm not going to sit here and say like that I wouldn't have done the work to get where I am now without them. But subconsciously, you never know how much things influence you. And I have no doubt that having kids adds a lot of firepower,
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you owned, or how long have you been, when did you start Big Little Gyms?
So we have Big Little Gyms. It's been like exactly 2 years. It's probably almost to like the date too, because I formally started this business when I was at a marketing conference event like 2 years ago in February, a big one. A lot of people know, like Funnel Hacking Live. It's ClickFunnels' like main event. I was kind of getting into the marketing world back then, and I had gone to that event a couple of years in a row to kind of meet people and see what was working and what wasn't, and just had already had the ideas, and I'd already kind of dabbled a little bit like freelance, like with helping some gyms with some stuff. I had done like some websites for a few gyms. I'd given some like just advice to people that had wanted to have conversations, and people were telling me like, hey, you should like make this a real thing because we like your take on it. Let's you should do this. So I was like, got real inspired one night at the event. Like literally, I think it started with like one post in one of the Facebook groups that all the gym owners are, and it got like 200 some odd comments, and a whole bunch of people were reaching out to me and were like, hey man, yeah, I'd love to talk, and we launched with like a beta group, and then now here we are, a couple of years later, a couple hundred gyms later, things are going pretty strong.
Yeah, I think the backstory of that is really important. There's a few things I want to unpack here. First of all, you've gone through pretty much the highs and lows of starting a business, which I am sure you were out there rolling out this artificial turf in the beginning days yourself.
Oh yeah, no, I had so Arizona Turf Solutions. That was the name of the company. I think I stole the logo off of Google image search in like 2007 when I started that company. You know what I mean? Like that's that's like, I was a young kid. I don't even know how else to get a logo done. There weren't also the resources. And then to like have someone draw one up for you, I didn't know what something like that cost. And then like the first job I ever got, like I practically gave away the job. And then when I had to order product from my supplier, I'm like, where do I have it shipped? I'm like, I guess my garage, and like I had them shipped to my garage. And like these rolls of turf, you guys ever seen like a roll of carpet? It's huge. And like a roll of carpet is hard for one guy to like move around. The turf is like 3 times as thick as carpet, so it's incredibly heavy. And like because I didn't have that much money, I cashed out a 401k to do this. I bought like a single cab Chevy Silverado. I think I spent like $6K on that truck, and then I had a utility trailer, which was way like, it was a utility trailer for like moving furniture. It wasn't for like moving like landscape materials, which is very heavy, like rock and base material, and the infill product we put comes in these big heavy bags. Like I remember that trailer where I put everything on it, the roll of turf and all my equipment and everything, and it'd be all like warped. I'm like, man, hopefully the police don't see me driving on the road. They're gonna tell me to get this thing off the road because it's unsafe, right? But I had to do what I had to do to get this thing going. And it didn't take very long for me to make enough money to go buy like a legit truck and a legit trailer and all those things. It took a better part of a year to get there. But yeah, at first I was the one rolling the turf. I remember I was, in the Arizona sun is incredibly unforgiving. I didn't have to work out back then. I mean, I would just be out there doing jobs, and I wasn't selling, I was installing. And when I wasn't installing, I was selling. And I would just be like sunburnt, farmer's tan, out there just sucking down water in the middle of the heat. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, pay the dues,
You're yeah, I've been there. Your your alignment of like switching careers.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's 2 years, and that's about as long as you've been doing Big Little gyms. I've noticed this pattern of men who tend to switch gears when they have a kid.
Yeah.
Um, and does that pretty much align with the timing? Like you,
And the timing definitely aligns. I don't know if I had a conscious thought, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I like ever said, well, I'm having him, so I got to switch gears. I never really, but I don't doubt that was an influential thing to have happen, right? No doubt. You know what I mean? To have one is like plenty of people can get by having one kid and make it work. Once you have two, now it's like, oh man, this is like there's two of them. That's twice if they decide they want to go to college, that's twice the amount of money I got to come up with to put them through college if that's the route they want to go, or twice as much food I got to buy. Now it's real versus just like having just one that can be your little partner in crime too. It's like, okay, this is legit. We're carrying some weight here now. So I'm sure that played a big part, but I never made it like a conscious effort. I've reinvented myself a couple times now. There's been like 4 or 5 different versions of Will. And me and my wife talk about it all the time. There was the version of me that moved west that when I was 21 years old. There's the version of me that from there until I became an entrepreneur for myself around when I met Aaron. There's the version of me that in those early entrepreneurial days, and then we moved back to Phoenix. There was another version of me, and each of these versions, like I'm almost unrecognizable to myself. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like realignment in each of those phases. Like a lot of things, a lot of deep work I did on myself. You see behind me, and obviously listen to the radio, you don't see it, but yeah, I got books behind me, and like I read and constantly consume like self-help, personal development, things like that. Not because I want to be one of these people that just reads this like hype stuff, but because I'm like, I'm trying to put it together for myself, like trying to find that edge that's going to help me get to that next level and whatever I'm called to do next,
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's a conscious thing. I have this theory that at some point when they get pregnant, their wives get pregnant with their first or second, something clicks. And I've talked to so many men, and the timing is like, oh yeah. It's when I opened my first business, when my first son was going to be born. You hadn't even been born. And I'm like, I should open a business. And I've just heard this story over and over again. I think there's this innate thing inside of us where we're like, I need to step up my game. Like, and this is a real deal, right? We're not thinking through it, cognitively mapping it out. It just happens. And it's probably some of the worst timing, but it sounds like it's been really good for you. Um, your first child, Zoe,
Mhm.
uh, and you kind of call her kind of a little wild, or is it Jack you said was a wild child, but Zoe, I don't have girls. Talk about how a girl impacts you as a father, like what that does to you.
Yeah, it's like it's funny whenever I have this conversation, like I have a hard time getting through it without getting emotional because but it's from a place of joy, right? It's like it's so much joy that you can get emotional about it. But like here already I can feel it welling up, right? It's like because it's such a pleasant surprise in your life, especially if you're like this, you know, of course every man thinks that they're alpha, but like I definitely know from like the walks the walks I've walked and the talks I've talked that like I'm one of these guys that like, I'm pretty like I don't know, intense by nature, right? Like and just when you hear people, you own a gym and you hear what people say about you when you're the owner and all these things, and you start to gather like, okay, it must be a pretty intense guy, you know what I mean? So like I get it. I'm pretty alpha guy, and like you expect when you have a boy for there to be a bond, right? And naturally, most guys are like, oh, I want to have a boy when I have a kid, right? Like they totally underestimate what kind of value a daughter can bring to their life, and it totally has, because it's totally like this pulls out this side of you that like is like hiding. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
hiding behind is hiding behind things that's like softer and more empathetic, and man, just like the level of cute that she is or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that like it just sometimes just blows my mind. I'm like, I had something to do with that, like to make that. It's like, you know, and she obviously is like a bright light, I guess, in the world to me, and will have a positive impact on a lot of people's lives with how special she is. You know what I mean? So it's like to have had anything to do with that is a big point of pride for me. You know what I mean?
As it should be. I think a lot of men that have girls have expressed that to me. This different side it pulls out to you. So I'm always intrigued to hear more about that. Do you
Yeah.
feel like with Jax, it's a little different? Like you're still protective of him, but it is on a different level, or is it pretty similar?
No, it's definitely different. And given like, you know, those years with her from like to where Jax is entering was, you know, really where Jax is now is when she started to kind of, because, you know, 2 and younger, they're not really that like conscious of what's going on in the world. They don't really have, they have their personalities, but they're still really just like a baby. You know what I mean? Like you're like, what's their personality type? Like, I don't know, like a baby. You know what I mean? When they start 2 and they start to like, you know, actually develop their consciousness and like their worldview and start to explore, and you can really start to see like some personality. That's like where Jax is just entering. So it's easy to discount where he's at. You know what I mean? Like because he's just entering that phase. So I think we'll see it here in the next year or two. We'll see what Jax is really about as he develops his own personality. Because we really try not to have that too much influence on that here in our house. You know what I mean? Like even I myself always wondered like, you know, are girls really girly because we treat them like girls, and are boys really manly because we treat them like men? Like, are they a product of like these default like social norms and environments that we create because of, well, there's social norms, right? So we try really hard to like, you know, like, and we're not even these kind of people that do it for like any other reason than we just want them to be whoever they want to be. So we'll do gender neutral things, but like my daughter is about as girly as you can get, and my son is about as man as you can get. And there's no doubt that one embodies a feminine power and one embodies a masculine power. And I don't know if I'm missing your question or not, Scott. What was the question you asked that got me started?
Just the difference, the difference of the way that you like respond, and maybe even a protective level. I'm just kind of looking for that instinct differentiation between a boy and a girl that you've noticed.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess I was kind of still on it. Okay, good.
Right.
Yeah, Jax has definitely got that masculine edge to him, where like you kind of just, at least to me, just feels like he's gonna be fine, and is gonna be able to take care of himself. And you know, and I think Zoe will too, actually, because she's got like a little bit of like that edge. But there's also like, because of the bond that we have, there's definitely a daddy daughter thing that we have, where we go for midweek pizza lunches and we do these little things, right? And there's like something about that that's like, if someone looks at her wrong, I'll kill them. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? You know, whereas like Jax, I don't really like, I'm not really as worried about that. Whereas like my daughter, it's like, even though she might not need the help, I just want to know that she has it. You know what I mean? Whereas like Jax, I think will kind of either take care of himself or just kind of know inherently, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of like, I guess my, you know, and I guess I would know better as I get to know Jax more, and his personality comes out more in the coming next years as that develops, you know, how I feel about that. But at least where I sit now, I mean, he definitely just does like boy stuff. You know what I mean? Like right now already, just like a little brute, you know, like a Hulk smash. It's like we set up all the toys, all his little Avengers toys, and we play with him. And he just like, his idea of playing with them is just smash them all down.
Let
You
them
know
up,
what I mean?
smash them down. Yeah.
Smash them all down, right? So it's like you put all this together, like, yeah, okay, he's developing those masculine traits, and he'll probably be, and if he adopts any of my qualities, and like the other men in his life, their qualities, like we're, me, my father-in-laws are all pretty like self-made men. So, if he adopts any of those qualities, which he likely will, just because you're a product of the environment, he's probably going to be like pretty hard charging, and probably not. I'm just generally not worried about him. He'll find a way, like I did, right? Where it's definitely different for women, right? I mean, the world is changing. We're in this super progressive era. You never know what it looks like in a decade or two. Maybe that flip flops back the other way and more conservative, and women are viewed differently or whatever, and women are more empowered now than ever. But there's masculine energies and there's feminine energies, and both have their benefits and their setbacks, right? Like, so that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah. In my early time at Brotherhood of Fatherhood, I was interviewing men who had adults, their kids had turned into adults. And one of the questions I would ask is, about raising daughters, because it's something I'm very curious about. And my favorite quote was by a gentleman that I respect highly. His name's Brian. And he said, I want my daughter to be equally as comfortable in in a ballroom dress as she is in a dirty baseball dugout. I
Mhm.
thought I thought that's awesome. So knowing that your daughter's really girly, like how do you see your role in like if you like that statement, how is that fulfilled? What are the things that you kind of hope to instill?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely a big part is like, the things I've done, hopefully they see me working, and as stories get told as they get older, they can develop a lot of character, by way of watching me develop my character and do the things I do. Grit's definitely an important part of it. And though my daughter is girly, she's also like very athletic. You know what I mean? So like, and I'm a very athletic person by nature. It's my, I guess, way of expressing myself is to usually do like sporting or athletic things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not riding my bike. I'm, doing CrossFit here in the home gym, um, or I'm, man, any number of things. I just was doing jujitsu for a while. Like I'm always doing something. And so in our backyard, like most of the toys they have to do with sports. So they're playing sports. She's like, I set up pallets here in the backyard because we just got done doing an expansion in the backyard. So we had some pallets left over from some pavers. I stacked them up and we made jumps, and she's jumping things with her little like girly bike that, following me as I'm jumping my 29er off of these pallets. She's doing it too, right? So she'll develop like a lot of those like traits. I think a lot of it is just the experiences that they're going to have doing stuff like that with their dad in their backyard, is going to be how they develop some like grit and, and things like that. That's what I'd hope that you know, they could gather some characteristics they could pick up.
Yeah, yeah. So look, this is a great segue into your office. So let me paint a picture for our audience. Will has he built, and I'll let him tell dimensions, but he built an office, an exterior office outside, and it's done really well. But but the cool thing is like if you're watching this podcast right now, you're seeing him in his office, and he's got his ClickFunnels ward up there, and but if you were to pivot just a little bit and go the other way, you're going to see a beautiful gym. You're going to see a rack with dumbbells. You're going to see probably a mountain bike over there. You're going to see his pull-out Rogue rig that can swing out from the wall, and rubber plates and barbells. Like for me, that's like the uh, quintessential like man's situation, because I'm all into the man cave thing, but man, I really like my work environment to embody like me. Like if I could have my mountain bike in here, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
So when you started planning this, when you started putting this together, and I do have I by the way, I do have direction to take this with the kids, but when you started putting this together, what was your dream? What was your vision? Tell us the size. Give us a few details.
Yeah, yeah. So it started, what like triggered the whole event was I was selling my gym. So we owned two different gyms over the better part of the last decade. First one was in California. I had a partner on that, and it was my choice to leave and go back to Phoenix and kind of do it solo and start over. So I had him buy me out for what he had in his bank account, which wasn't very much, but it was enough for me to like get back and like fund a new gym. And then I was selling this gym, and it really wasn't because of COVID. It was just happening timing. Our lease was up in October. We had already done one extension. We had already done really well during that extension. We were setting ourselves up in that extension to sell the gym at a decent evaluation. And that didn't really work out because of COVID. If anything, the COVID effect was what we got for the gym at the end. But we were really ready to move on because this thing with BLG was really taking off. Knowing that I was selling the gym, and knowing there'd be at least a little bit of a payoff there and some funds coming in from that. And then in the deal with the gym, I told him, like, hey, I'm taking some gear with me. We had really good gear at my gym. We didn't have just like cheap crumb rubber bumpers. We had nice competition bumpers, really nice stuff. Like we invested in good quality gear at our gym and all that. So I was like, I'm not going to go try to buy all this stuff again, especially with the market the way it was. You can't even get gear. I'm like, I'm going to negotiate out of the deal, like 10K worth of gear, a few 100 pounds of the bumpers, some barbells, took my personal Olympic bar with me, upfit this thing really nice. Right. And then I got online and started looking at plans for sheds. Cause I was like, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, they all have like their man, like you said, their man cave, which is like just like one little corner of the house, right? That's like maybe where they have their video games and like a bookshelf or whatever. It's not really their own like dedicated space. Really, the wife still like owns the house, and that's like how mean, that's not my house. As you go to my house and you'd be like, does that man even live here? Like,
I know, right?
we have a son now. You got to make sure this place isn't quite as like pastel, and that, he's does amazing interior design, but it's definitely like, it's not this, not much masculinity in the house. So I was like, having gyms for the better part of a decade, I always had, a 4 or 5, 6, 8,000 square foot man cave essentially with my business, right? My gym was my man cave, and it was just a mile down the road. And if I wanted to like get out of the house and work in a space that just was more masculine, more supportive for masculine energies, if I wanted to like work for 4 hours and stop and throw some weights around and bang and clang a little bit, I could do that. If I wanted to put on, death metal, you know what I mean? I could do that. I just had a space. I didn't have to worry about carving out a corner of my wife's house and the space that she's built for our family. So when we sold the gym, I was like, oh, I need to have that space still. Like it's like critical, right? Like it's critical. Right. I don't know that I could just be confined to the corner of the house. I'd probably really upset my wife with how much disruption I just tend to bring around me. And just like, kids are taking naps. I'm on phone calls and I talk really loud. So I'm like, okay, I need this space. So I got online, started looking at like shed plans. You can buy plans for sheds, for pretty cheap, like $50, and they come with all the engineering plans and everything that you need if you were going to go get it like permitted by the city and go buy, material lists and all that. And I found like some really cool plans for like a lean-to style building with like transom windows and really, really cool, and got to like pretty much build, like pick the design, pick up the materials. I'm like, I want to do this thing from scratch. And it was also like, I know a lot of gym owners listen to your, a lot of your network's gym owners. So is mine. A lot of gym owners are probably listening to this. I don't know. I don't know. I brought up the gym owners. What was my point with that? But anyways, I guess we're all used to having our own space like that. Like, yeah. So when we close the gym, like more or less, I wanted to have like something I built from scratch, like, and also like when I own a gym, most of my point. So I guess with owning gyms, like, as you know, like it's an all consuming business. It's like the business is not open 9 to 5. The business is open like 5 a.m. to like 8 p.m. And you have the weirdest hours, and like taking on projects like building a shed in your backyard, even if you do have your business pretty automated, even if you're just trying to be present at your business, well, most of your clients are there. It's not at times that are productive for you to take on a lot of extra projects, right? And most projects you're taking on are within the gym themselves. You're always moving a rig around or moving the floor around or buying more equipment or running new programs. Like that's where your creative energy goes when you own a gym. When I sold the gym, now I had this like big void to fill, right? Like, so it was almost like all the things I told myself I would do when I was grown up, if you will, and finally had the means and time and money to do, I went and did. So I built this shed, went and bought a mountain bike, which is something I used to do when I first moved west. I just hadn't done it since I'd been married. Got back into that, been wanting to get into Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I'm a big MMA fan. So I got into that, like I did like 4 things at once. I ended up realizing I can't do them all, but I had to see the shed project. But anyways, yeah, it basically, this thing's like a 20-foot long by 10 to 12 foot deep structure that we built from the ground up, like a house. We built it like a house. So, and they were like shed plans, but we went and we overbuilt it. It's built like, it's built better than our house is probably built. Cause I was like, I'm going all out with this thing, of course, just being like who I am and coming at things with the intensity that I come at. I'm like, nope, we're going all out. So it's got like a really nice, like standing seam metal roof on it, nice modern lean-to style. We did like a board and batten style siding, if you will, exterior on it. So it looks like really, really cool and stylish. And it's got like a lot of windows, a lot of natural light. Until it gets dark, I don't really need to put the lights on in here. Upfitted it with like Sonos inside. And then, yeah, like 2/3 of it is a rubber matted floor, like a gym. Yep. It has a Rogue, fold away Monster Light rig, mass storage system. I got a 50-inch TV wall mounted up there too as well. And then the ceiling's all exposed, so you can see the wood and the craftsmanship that we put into this place. And that's like my favorite thing, is you can see all the tiger stripe wood grain in the ceiling. And it's just like in the rafters and all that. It's super cool. Yeah. I mean, I myself, I'm like, even after it being built now for 6 months and working in it every day, I'm still in awe of it, that I got to build this thing, and grateful that like the resources were provided to me by the resource or God or whoever provides these things to us. And that I was able to put it together and have the time to do it too. It was awesome. I got my family involved, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, both my brother-in-laws, and got to have some bonding time, sweating and building with them in the summer, swinging hammers. You okay, Scott?
Oh, had a little COVID attack there. Sorry.
No worries.
Lost it.
Yeah, so it was really cool. We got to have, that male masculine bonding experience this last summer on the backs of selling that gym. And it was really just a cool way to fill that void, because one of the things that I never really had to contend with it, but I was worried about it, was, my identity was tied up in owning my gyms.
Yeah.
I grew, one gym, and then I built another gym. And, when you're the figurehead of those communities, especially like we grew a 400 member gym that was pretty prominent, and like a lot of relationships and friendships and bonds and, social circles were built out of that. So we were pretty well known, and I was pretty well known. And that's the person who ran Spark CrossFit. That's what I did for a long time. And in my own mind, that's what I had labeled myself as, right? So you worry,
Right.
like, when you move on from that and you go to do this next level thing, but you were at two things: are people going to take me seriously on this new thing? And then B, like, am I going to be like so attached to that old identity that I'm going to be like, am I going to have like another fall from grace, if you will, of like, I'm no longer that person? And these, because now I'm still friends with a lot of these people. Like, do they, still treat me the same, with the same respect? Were they only respecting me because I was the owner of the gym? Like, am I really not? That's just your own insecurities and projecting outward, right? Like, you worry, like, if people like you for who you are and not just because of what you built.
Dude, I've been there. I've been there. We do. We really, in the service industry, when I owned my bike shop and then closed it, that was a big thing I went through. It actually caused quite a bit of depression, is the fact that my identity was wrapped up in there. And then all of a sudden, I'm not the bike shop owner. I'm not the guy with all the great gear and leading all the rides. I'm just the guy that rides. And then
Right.
same with the gym. Except for I relocated right away. And I will give this little hint to anybody. And I think Will kind of dropped it already. If you have a gym and you're selling it, take the best, negotiate it out of your price, and keep it for yourself. You deserve it. You got to set yourself up for success. And the first thing I did when I moved was, the garage was not going to be a place to park first. It was going to be a garage gym first. And it was meticulous and it was laid out perfectly. And then I left room for the car to drive in when it wasn't being used. But I love the office gym combo. I think that they in my mind, it would give me this like synergy of work, like mind flow. Maybe because we both have owned gyms and we've worked in that environment, we relate so much of our work product from that environment. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah, you'd have steel and rubber nearby at all times now in order to get work done. And it's just to my left, even still, after I left that area of owning a gym. I do love it, yeah. And like, when I built this space too, I built it to where I could do a lot of different things with it. If I don't want it to be a gym one day, it can be. We built big double doors that I hand built out of the back that like are wide enough to drive a car in here. So if I wanted to turn this into a third garage space and work on cars in here, I could. I do store my mountain bikes in here, so it's also my like bike shop, which is cool. But yeah, you need to have that space. I think every man does, and a woman does too, right? Like my
I think
my
so.
my wife has the whole house, but even in the house, she has, a little area that she set up where she can get work done, because she is like, you talked about her earlier. She's definitely a force, and is incredibly smart and sharp in her own right. I mean, she runs our household, but she would easily be successful in anything that she put her mind forth. And she helps out a ton with big little gyms, and even has kind of broken out her own separate little part of it now with like some plug and play nutrition and accountability stuff that she's been doing for gyms for years. So that's kind of become its own thing. So yeah, I mean, everybody needs to have a space that's dedicated to their work, that can be separate from the noise of daily life,
On that same note, though, something I've noticed about areas that I've created for work, or areas I've created to kind of surround myself in, whether it's the home gym or like having a bike shop type setup at home, my office. When my kids were young, that's where they wanted to be. Like they would gravitate there, and they were always super respectful about it. There was times when you did it and times when you didn't. Do you find that with your outside office, with your spot?
Yeah, it's a treat for the kids that they get to come back here. You know what I mean? I think because the environment and the just the air of the space is different, because it's the space that like I created, and like, I can sense the difference when I walk out of this building and walk into our house, and the main building of our property, our house, it smells like vanilla vanilla candles my wife lights, and it's more pastels. And here it's, I got my Husky toolbox right there, and my bikes right there. It's very mechanical and wood grain and steel, black powder coat, these things. And my daughter comes out here and will just ask me to put the TV on so she can sit out here in the extra chair that I have. Because on this desk, I'm sitting on another chair on the other side, and she'll pull that chair out and sit. And I think she just likes the different types of warmth this space has. So, and it's also like, kids are like space they're not supposed to go in. When they get access to it, they're just really excited to be there. So yeah, they do enjoy the space. And my daughter likes to come out, and we have a concept 2-rower right here. She'll pull that thing down and she'll play the fish game, even though she doesn't even play it yet. She'll just play the fish game, and yeah, it's great, man. It's cool to have like these multiple spaces. And then, with building this structure, what we did is we also went, all out in the rest of the yard. So we have, a big stretch of turf that the kids play on, and then like a really nice, like herringbone pattern paver patio that we just had installed that is just beautiful and really, really nice and useful and open. And the kids just got stuff in all different directions. We kind of like, we set up our lives well before this COVID thing to be able to work from home. That was always our dream. You know what I mean? Like, that was something we wanted a long time ago. Back when I owned my first gym, we used to, we still owned the other company, the turf company. We would travel all over. We would go to Thailand, and we really worked hard to set up our lives to be able to work, even if we owned brick and mortar businesses that had warehouses, or it was a gym or whatever, that we had staffed up, that we could leave and go wherever we wanted. So we always set up our lives that way. And when we bought this house, we're like, okay, we're going to set up this house to where, like, when that day comes when we do sell our gym, we move on to that next phase, that like our house has like everything we need in it. It's, like to enjoy it. And so we set the yard really nice to like be able to do these things. And it's great for the kids, great for us. And now like COVID times have hit, and we're kind of forced to be at home more.
Yeah.
There's less travel, like not that anybody's true. In most states, you can go wherever you want, but like with this COVID thing, do you really want to travel more right now? Not really, like not because of anything I'm worried about, but just because of like all the limitations and all the having to deal with the, just more to deal with the, like traveling to go enjoy yourself was already like, not something everybody looks forward to. You don't really look forward to the travel, you look forward to the vacation, right? Now the travel's harder and it kind of complicates. It's like, we're just taking less trips. So, having the yard done up and having the space that's mine, I'm really not, struggling as much as I thought I would in a time like this. I really thought I would struggle more if I couldn't travel, because I'm very much the type of person that like flies by the seat of their pants, needs different environments, needs different surroundings. A big part of, why I invested in a lot of mastermind groups I'm in and have over the last couple of years was just so I had excuses and invites to go places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just for the change of scenery, because I knew that if I could change my scenery, that I could change my behaviors, make adjustments to my behaviors, come back, giving myself a fighting chance to actually like make those adjustments. So it's actually like with having this space built out, we've been doing pretty good,
Yeah. It's pretty good timing, really. I mean, thinking of the circumstances that have been in play and the timing that you finished it, sold the gym, finished this, it's kind of all unrolled, rather nice. So you've been married, you said like 13 years. Yeah, 13 years. Um, what do you do? What do you do intentionally to keep your marriage fresh and make sure that it is in tip-top condition?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. And I see these questions get asked a lot in these men's groups. I try to contribute myself. I think we've done some good things in our relationship that, when I'm hanging out with my brother and sister-in-law and their, in their new marriage, they just got married last year. I always try to like, by nature, I'm a coach and a teacher, right? So I'm always just like passing on knowledge, whether or not people want it or not. I'm just always like, imparting my wisdom, if you will. So yeah, man, that's attention's the key word, right? Like you have to have intention. A lot of people get married and like they just like assume it's supposed to go a certain way. They just kind of like take for granted what they have, right? And they lose all intention, right? They don't do anything with intention anymore. It's I go to work and I come home and it's kind of like this day-to-day grind, if you will. And until something exciting pops up or you have an argument, you don't really work on it. You don't really work on it, right? You don't really put that work in. So, especially I mean, for us, it was easy for a long time when we didn't have the kids and we were making all the money and it didn't have the kids and you just had the freedom to travel. Like life was always exciting, right? You go to Thailand, you go to whatever, Mexico, whatever you felt like doing, we could do it. So you didn't really have to intentionally spice things up. But then we had kids, right? And that's where it's different because now you can't just travel when you want. Now you can't just, even if you have the means, it's just not that easy. And especially, like I said, in COVID times, even more so. That's why you're seeing so many otherwise healthy relationships starting to crumble now, is because like people just, it's harder to keep that zest, right? So you got to like have a lot of intention. You got to, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the first guy to say this, but you got to date your wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's really, really important. Like you have to have a, you know, whatever it costs, you know, if you only got an extra $50 a week to spend that $50 on a babysitter and take your wife out. Right. Cause all this stuff comes back around full circle to you. You know what I mean? Like, if you are spending the last $50 on, to go date your wife, you know, even if money's tight, the level of enhancement that will have for your life and the support you'll get from her to do the things that you need to do are going to have that $50 going to start. You're starting to see returns on that. You know what I mean? Like this is my business mind and how it always works. I'm always thinking about like, you know, if I do this, what's going to be my return? And so I'm always thinking about, you know, those things, downside and upside. And it's like, there's pretty big upside in that because you see a lot of people in like just terrible relationships, or maybe the people aren't terrible. They just gotten themselves in a place where they despise each other, or that's the word I'm looking for, you know, where people just really resent each other, right? Like you start to resent, even if you're both good people, that, you know, just whatever your situation is, you start to resent each other. And the kind of weight that will place on a man will affect his paycheck, undoubtedly. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, like your group that you've built, Brotherhood of Fatherhood, is awesome. You know, it's all people that seems like more entrepreneurial and have a different, but I'm in a few of these groups and some of them, they'll be like 3 times the size of the one that, yeah, but most of them are just like average Joes who have average like blue collar labor jobs that don't make that much money. And at the same time, like when they're at the questions they're asking in those groups and the things that they're dealing with, I'm like, this is why you're not successful. And it's like, you know, and who knows, it's probably a compounding effect of a lot of different things in their life, but like the problems are different, right? Like in that, like they can't get out of the position they're in financially because they're also in a relationship that's like just carrying like a friggin' backpack full of bricks, right?
Yeah, you never know which is first. And I've noticed the same thing. We have a very wide variety of people in the Brotherhood of Fatherhood group, but we are swinging in that entrepreneurial, self-employed, high achiever type of area. And
Yeah.
there can be a high correlation between that and how intentional they are with their marriage and with their kids. And that intentionality is maybe some part of their personality, and that's why they do well in business. It's not, one is not a void of the other. These are very interlocking concepts between marriage, family, and business or success. And you make a really good point. This intentionality, we go to work or we create our own business, and we do it with very intentional action. We have these things, we put them into place, we strategize, we look at the next step, we put things into place, and then a lot of time that just kind of wraps into our own personal world. That's where I see success happening, at least, is when we treat this just as important, hopefully more important than our business. But you made a really good point, is they do help each other. Like you're not going to be ultra successful and continually be miserable at home. There's a synergy that happens there.
Yeah. Thank you for concising that and making that make a little more sense. That's more, that's spot on. I mean, that's exactly what it comes down to. And some people are in the wrong relationships, right? And there are definitely people that get married to people that like, it's just a non-fit and they gotta, you know, that's gotta end, or it's gotta work itself out somehow. Don't get me wrong. That's definitely the case. And there's also the case where like, hey, you are a good fit for each other, and the resentment's grown because you're not making those efforts to each other. And, you know, and whether it be like unbroken, or whether it be broken promises, or who knows, whatever scenario, or just stagnation, you know, what gets that going is getting out and having those conversations you were having back when you first met each other, and still getting to know each other, right? And having a conversation Cause it's very easy when you've known your wife for 12 years to sit down and have sit down to have dinner, and it just kind of be like a normal how was your day thing. You don't really ask her opinion on something or her view on something, and treat her like an individual, right? So you definitely got to do those things, especially if like your wife doesn't, you know, a lot of guys, some of these guys listening, you know, like myself, my wife doesn't have like a formal job, if you will. She's kind of like been employee one of like every business I've started, right? So she definitely works her ass off, you know, and like I got to be careful to say that she doesn't have a job, because she definitely works. She just doesn't, you know, go have like a formal. She's not like a nurse somewhere, and you know, while I do this, you know what I mean? Like she's head of household, that she does a lot, you know, but she's pretty much got the kids to talk to all day. You know what I mean? So like just even other human interaction, you know, that's a really common thing for a lot of wives, right? If the husband's the one making the money, you know, the wife's sitting at home talking to two toddlers all day. You know what I mean? Like you know, especially with my wife is a talker, man. She's an extrovert, and like she needs that outlet. It's part of it, gives her energy, right? So like, you know, I need to do that for her every week, you know, not just for our own relationship, but just like give her, if she hasn't chatted with anybody else this week, because it's, you know, like again, COVID times, right? You're just hanging out with people less. You know what I mean? You see your family less, you know, not because, again, we're not freaks about that kind of thing, but it's more or less like if you don't have to, you just don't do it if you don't need to in these times, because you're just trying to like try to do what you can to help out the situation, right? And like not be irresponsible, and like not be the people that are getting together with 20 people every weekend, right? So instead of once every weekend seeing our in-laws, we see them once a month now, you know? So, you know, there's less outlets for her. So I'm thinking about her mental welfare too, right? Like she's got to stay balanced. So I got to be that outlet. If that's what I got to do is tee up some questions I know she can go along on while we have some cocktails on a Friday night. And that's what I do. You know what I mean? Like that's what I do. So I'm not only being a good, you know, doing this for our relationship, but I'm also like just being a good like partner, right? Like serving her the best way I can, which is like, okay, she probably needs an outlet, because she's not like me where I'm talking to Scott right now for an hour. She doesn't have that many of these opportunities, you know?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head when you said the word serve. You know,
Yeah.
you're intentionally coming up with some things that are going to serve her needs, and I love that you're uplifting the fact that running the household is a crap load of work. It is not easy, and you know, you're not bringing home typically a paycheck. My wife also, you know, holds the household together, and man, when she doesn't do something and I do, so she's out doing, it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of freaking work. And
I, I can't, I mean, I'm sure that there's some sort of like callousing that occurs, that she's just developed some sort of tolerance or endurance or stamina. But I mean, I got, you know, we all have to stand in sometime, and I've said to stand in a few times, and man, like by 3, 4 o'clock, going through the motions that she has to go through every day. Like I'm like, dude, I couldn't do this every day. Like,
I'm pretty,
you know, it just, it doesn't fit like what I want to do with my day. And I'm sure it doesn't fit perfectly her day either. She's probably certainly making some sacrifices what she would want to do with her day. I think about that all the time too, right? Like, so, you know, when we have big wins, I make sure like if she wants to do certain things or buy certain things, whatever, you know, makes her realize that she's an equal player in the game, then that's what I do. You know, even if it is like, hey, I want to go buy a Louis Vuitton purse, like, yeah, like go for it. You know what I mean? Like that you've earned it as much as I have, and we had a great month, you know?
right.
So, but yeah, that work that she's doing is, you know, especially like if it's, you got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my daughter, like, you know, she has days where she just whines all day. You know what I mean? Like it's not often, but she has like her moods. You know what I mean? That's something else. I noticed we talked earlier about like difference between my daughter and my son. My son, very stable, just a boy, right? Just grunting and, you know what I mean? Like doing boy stuff. My daughter is like high and low, right? Like she's like high and low. Like some days, just the cutest thing, so much good energy, dancing around, bouncing off the walls, jumping off stuff. Um, Anything goes. And there's other days where she's just like nothing satisfies her, and she's just a little whiny. They're 1 out of 7 days, but they come along, and like, man, I'll go in the house just for like my 1 hour like lunch break to get out of the office and change my environment. And my daughter's in that mode. I'm like, how is my wife dealing with this all day?
Right.
You know? And we, you know, to some degree, some of it is, yeah, we need to call attention to it and work on our daughter with that stuff, but it's also just going to happen. You know what I mean? And my wife really doesn't have a, you know, she's the one that's her role in our relationship, right? So she's got to manage that. And like, so like at the end of that day, I'm like, man, like we need to get out of the house. So that'd be a day like if I notice my daughter's been moody, I tell Aaron, I'm like, hey, let's go out and get dinner out tonight. You know what I mean? Let's take the kids out. Let's get out of the house. You know what I mean? Like, so again, serving her. You know what I mean? Like, however I can to help her keep balance. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you live a life of service. Honestly, if you think of your role right now, you're serving gym owners, you're helping. You know, I've personally walked through your system with you just last week, and looked at from the inside what it offers and what it does, and it's phenomenal. It helps gym owners kind of level their business out to next level, 2 levels, 3 levels. It really helps them get their things into place. Before that, you're helping people get their physical lives, you know, their fitness lives in place. So service is definitely a part, probably, of who you are. Have you recognized that from early on, or is this kind of a, you know, last 5-6 years?
Excuse me. Yeah, no, absolutely, Scott. It's funny that you talk about this because it's something that's developed over the last like 3-4 years. And I think it correlates pretty strong with when I went through this really, really rough, dark patch I went through like 3-4 years ago, around we were finding out that I was having my daughter. And I was already going through it before. Prior to that, we just happened to also find out about her at the same time. And this was a dark patch where something definitely broke too. Like something I had like I was already feeling pretty down. I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do, kind of like fulfill the bigger purpose of what I wanted to do. And I was struggling with trying to figure out what it was. Like I knew I owned the gym, but I just, like I said, I was feeling this fall from grace. Like, man, I got to get back up. Like I can't, this gym is, it's great. It's fun. And I'm good at it. And I run a good, successful gym, but it's not going to be like my defining thing. Right. Like, it's not going to be the thing that like is going to be on the tombstone, you know? So I was doing all this work, and like one day I was at a coffee shop, just, I think I was like Googling random things that I thought maybe I could get into that maybe could be a good viable business. And like I legit had like an acute panic attack that day. And like it was the shell cracked, man. It was like all my reality shattered. Like I got this fear, like my fear center got activated. I got really panicky right there in that moment. I looked out the window, and it was like, when you see in movies when someone like panics and everything like zooms out really fast and gets like super sharp, like, you know, the adrenals kicked up, I guess. All that like happened. And like, I felt like I had this urge of like, run, you know what I mean? Like run, but don't stop to go around things. Don't stop to open doors. Just go through things. Like that was like the fight or flight thing was kicked on. Right. And with that came like all the physical sensations, and I was scared too. Like, so I went home and like laid in bed and curled up in the fetal position, and I laid there for like 2 weeks, roughly, like a couple of weeks. I didn't really move. Tried like everything. I was, you know, like trying to drinking liquor or whatever I got to do to like try to calm myself down. Nothing would work. Like something was legit broken. And at the same time, I was feeling very lost with like what I wanted to do in life. And I think all this was like, and I wouldn't like put any of this on my worst enemy. Like there's someone like I hated, I would not cast a spell on them that would put them through what I went through, because with that panic thing stuck on came the suicidal ideations. Like just like, you know, everybody's had it where they're driving down a road and they get this crazy thought of like, oh, I mean, what happens if I just rip the steering wheel into that wall right there? Like everybody has like these weird fleeting thoughts, you know, like that just like intrusive thought, right, pops in your head, and who knows why. Maybe people don't, but I've had them before, back when I was, you know, prior to this whole thing. But I was like, now I was having them like repeatedly. Like I couldn't go down the road without thinking about, do I want to drive off a cliff? Do I want to do this? You know? So all this stuff, man, like was at a time up until then, I really wasn't much of a servant, to be honest with you, in business. You know what I mean? Like really, like, you know, I took good care of my clients, but really it was about money first, if I'm honest. You know what I mean? Like I'll be that honest. Not like I really was just, you know, and a lot of that was being in my 20s, and, you know, you give 20-year-old $5 million company, and that's their first experience in business, you know, they're going to develop some, you know, improper worldviews on like what business is. You know what I mean? Like they may not like be as grateful or like, you know, learn lessons. You know what I mean? And I made all the mistakes along the way too. So I did learn some things, but I wasn't really learning from them. But it was like, I think that that's what was going on now, is like this major shift was occurring from the inside out. I think there was a lot of baggage inside that was coming to the surface to say like, you got to change. You know what I mean? Like you got to change who you are. Um, and you got to find purpose, and that purpose is going to be tied up in being a vehicle for other people. Um, and so like, it was like a 2-year process, man, where I hired, like gurus, like legit gurus and like shamans to take me on like experiences, and going through hikes in the mountains and screaming from the top of my lungs on top of a mountain, to try to manifest certain energies and things like that. And like reading, diving deep into books, and like just tearing apart every bit of who I thought I was, to rebuild myself, to become the kind of person I needed to be to go to that next level. And I look back, and like while I was in it, I was like, man, like I said, I wouldn't have put that kind of torment that my own mind was causing on me, on someone else, but I'm glad I went through it. And
Yeah.
I'm strong enough to have gotten through it. Right. So, and I know that I'm unique in that regard, that like 98% of people probably would have cracked it, probably wouldn't be sitting here today. Right. So I kind of look at it like now as like, I'm in bonus time. Like I call what I went through the same kind of near death experience as someone has when a car hits them and they should have died, but they didn't, you know, I call what I went through the same kind of experience. So I'm kind of like here in bonus time. Right. Um, and so from here on out, it's just like, whatever I need to be, whoever I need to serve, whatever, if I need to bend over backwards for people, and just over deliver tremendous amounts of value in return for whatever, dollars they take out of their pocket that helps, our family pay their bills and put some money away, then I'll make sure they see a big return on that. So yes, sir, it's funny, because I've had people say that a few times, and I had these conversations like, man, you're really someone who serves people. And I still to this day, I'm like, man, I was not that guy like 5, 10, 15 years ago. I remember when I did sell cars, and I used to sell cars to people, even though I took good care of people and I never took advantage of people, I never did anything like, schemy like some people in the car sales world would do. I would sell them a car, and then like I would tell them I'd make a promise for some floor mats or something, and then I just wouldn't call them back. You know what I mean? I'd let one of the departments handle it when I should have handled it, right? Like there are little things that like when the sale was done, I just kind of moved on, right? Like
Right.
I wasn't really thinking that much about servitude as much as I was thinking about like making the sale and saying what I had to say to make the sale at the time without really pissing anybody off or taking advantage of anybody. That's definitely flipped now. Call it maturity, call it life experience, call it whatever, call it what I went through. Definitely. I look at myself as I'm just a vehicle now, and like I feel like there's something working through me, if I have to best describe that. And maybe that's what God is. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely, I'm sure some guys you have that watch this that are full on religious, and they're going to say that's God, man. That's who that is. Right. Or the universe, or whatever the divine power is, that there's definitely something, you know what I mean? Like me on my journey, I'm still figuring that out. But it's working through me for sure, you know?
I I I I love that journey that you just walked us through, and the transformation that occurred. And it was your big aha moment. It was your big um, thing that happened. I have had one of those, and I think most people do, where they go back and you're like, that's the origin of who I am and what I do right now. It's your origin story of your now.
Mhm.
Now you're in this bonus time, which I think is a phenomenal way to put it, because I think we do all go through transformations. And honestly, I think those guys you were referring to earlier, who are kind of just stuck in these 9 to 5 jobs, and kind of clock in, clock out, go drink a beer, go home. I mean, go home, drink a beer, go to bed, clock in, clock out. I don't think they've had those moments. I don't think
Right.
they've had those big shifting things that have occurred in their lives where they are woke up. And it's it's happened to every man that I've interviewed that is excelling in business at this point. They had a big moment. They had a crisis with identity because they were putting it in the wrong thing. You've talked about that. They've
Mhm.
had a switch to a servant heart, or like a servant, an act of servitude. It's the next level, and they've had some big, profound things happen in their lives. So, guys, if you need to get to that point, I guess you have to go through something big. You know,
You got to find a way to hit bottom, right? Like that's like kind of more or less it's kind of what it's like, right? That's what the drug addicts call it, right? Before they make that big turnaround, they hit bottom, right? And you don't necessarily need to get addicted to drugs to have that experience. All that does, I mean, really, a drug addict and someone going through what I went through is really the kind of the same journey almost. Actually, like just the drug addict was using the drugs as a coping mechanism. I think I was using my business as a coping mechanism, right? Like I would just work myself to the bone, like, and like, I just, I remember my wife even saying earlier in our relationship, after the honeymoon years kind of ended and we were just kind of in the swing of things, that like, I wasn't very present, and I didn't know what that meant I didn't know what that meant back then. I was like, whatever woo woo stuff you're talking about. Like I'm over here working and paying the bills or whatever. And now I know what she was talking about. I wasn't very present. I was like, as addicted to my work as people get addicted to opiates and whatever else people do to mask the symptoms of whatever pain it is that they're dealing with, right? Like, and we're all dealing with stuff. We all got baggage, no matter how good our lives were raised. Like, there's usually something there with our parents and our mom or our dad or some sort of like thing there that we got to figure out, right? And it's usually like something we also got to like work on ourselves too. You got to like, ownership's a big thing that I think people miss these days, are missing the mark on these days more than ever, right? And I'm sure we could probably go super deep on that. I see that's a conversation comes up quite a bit in your group and in a lot of these different groups of, and it's just something that's, I don't know if we're just, because we're in this ultra progressive time, which is a cycle, right? Like we go back and forth between these cycles of like progressivism and conservatism. And that sounds like a political thing, but it's not. It's just like, that's like human consciousness, right? Like it ebbs and flows, right? And right now we're in a super progressive place where like nobody really wants to take personal responsibility, So and with that, during these times of progressive, we also have more people depressed than ever, right? When they have all the society saying it's okay to blame it on other stuff, and people are, it doesn't make you feel any better.
Oh, it's a dead end road, man. It's a dead end road. We talked early on in the Brotherhood Fatherhood podcast about what I called the circle concept, and it's this analogy of, and you've seen it on Facebook, you've seen it all over the place, but I guess I just imagine standing in gravel or a really dusty dirt road with a stick in my hand and just turning in a circle, and realizing that every single thing that happens, everything that I get upset about, everything that I want to change, it all has to start inside of that circle. And I'm the guy standing in there, and that's the only thing I can control. The only thing I can control is in that circle. Like, and I gotta work on that. And there's freedom in letting go of all the external things and saying, you know what, I gotta take personal responsibility. Maybe somebody did X, Y, or Z to me, but how I respond is my responsibility. How I move past this is my responsibility. And I think, that might be another differentiator for successful entrepreneurs and business owners is they do take personal responsibility for things.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think that's, I've been doing a lot of work recently on like language patterns and stuff like that. Like, what do they call it? NLP is one of the, that was one of the things, but I feel like that's something I've grasped before I even knew what that was. And when I found out what it was, I was like, oh, wow, I think I kind of already subscribed to that way of like approach of like looking at how I deliver information and receive information from the world. It was already kind of something I felt like what made me from a really young age a good salesperson was like I could just kind of always sense through like people's tonality and body language and the 93% of communication that most people don't give any weight to, which is everything but the words, right? Like, and even when they do use their words, how do they organize their words and kind of beat around the bush a little bit, like very subtly, right? And as I dive into that world more and more and more, like I get more and more infatuated with like sensory acuity. And what that is like some people are almost like psychics in business, right? Like and people are like, how does that guy know, right? Like, how is that guy got such good vision in business and like just knows where things are heading all the time, just has his pulse on like what all the buyers out there want and just can come up with the right thing. Like people like Steve Jobs and, just these vision, Elon Musk, right? Like people that incredible vision. And it's like, well, that's not a mistake, man. Like that guy has developed sensory acuity, like to where it almost looks like, and it is because he's dived so deep into all this different subject matter and understanding of things and has made the mistakes and has punished himself enough and taken enough responsibility over the years to where like their like senses can adjust so minutely to little ebbs and flows that like it just leads them to the right conclusion on things, right? It's like it's so small. And it's like, those people have paid their dues, right? And like, people are like, oh, certain people are lucky. And it's like, I don't know how much of it's luck and how much of just like a degree of sensory acuity has been so sharpened that they can just kind of feel where things are going. Is like, and it comes across as intuition. People call it intuition, right? Like, they're like sometimes I wonder, because I've myself, and this is why I've been looking at it so much recently, is because I myself walked right in the path of success like 5, 6 different times now in my like working life, right? And I'm like a kid, like I didn't go to college. I struggled through grade school. All my memories of like grade school and it's very dark. You know what I mean? Like, was never really felt like socially accepted. ADD, all that stuff. Doctors telling me, you have to take this medicine, and then I didn't want to take it because it like make me made me feel. So I would pretend to take it in the morning, and I would spit it out when I walked outside on the way to the bus stop. And then I was in like special programs, like the special social programs that schools have, like the kids that aren't getting along socially, like I was in all that, So, and then like my friends were kids that were doing drugs and doing, had bad habits and stuff like that. So like for me, up until like 17, 18 years old, I was like, man, you just got to get out of this place. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I moved west when I was like 21. I was like, I just got to get out of this place and change my environment. So like, it was nowhere in the cards, that I was supposed to be successful in any way. You know what I mean? I was prepared because I used to work on cars and work in like factories. And I think I had like 20 jobs when I was like 16 to 20 before I moved west. I was prepared for life of blue collar work, whatever I got to do to get my hands dirty, right? I grew up in Metro Detroit. A lot of people in that part of the world, that's their destiny, right? Like, they're not going to college. You know what I mean? They're going to go work on an assembly line somewhere, or in a, some sort of parts shop for General Motors or Ford, or some company that's contracted to make plastic mold injection pieces. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was prepared to do. So when I moved west and just started hustling with that blue collar spirit and saw what it did in a white collar world, I was like, man, and like success just started. I started walking right in the path of success. I started like, the right things manifested for me as a result of that hard work. So yeah, man, like there's something there, some intuition that some people have. And I think it was growing up with like that blue collar mentality, and like just, all those things that I just shared with you guys, that forged an intuition that now as an adult in an entrepreneurial world, I can see things that other people can't see. I can see opportunity, and I'm just a little bit faster than a lot of other people. And that's not me like gloating. That's just like, hey man, like, you've walked right into these like things like 5 or 6 times now. There's nothing I haven't put my mind to that I haven't been successful yet. And it's to the point now where it's like, I just know whichever direction I got to go, I'm going to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to figure it out, and it's going to come together, and it's going to be good. More than anything, what I got to be careful of now is like, what, are these things that I'm doing the things that I want to do? Knowing that like I can get myself into trouble with anything.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to start another business that I'm not going to feel fulfilled by in like 4 or 5 years? And I feel like what I'm doing now, it is like, I mean, it pretty much hits on all the marks, you know what I mean? And I'm working with gym owners now and coaching, and yeah, we give them a lot of like practical advice and things that like point and click type stuff, but I also work pretty closely with them to help shift their mindset, because there's no doubt that like the people that are good at business, like we're talking about here, that are good at business and life, good relationships, there's some like correlating things there that like, that's the stuff that when I get on the phone with them and we do their onboarding, they think they're coming on to learn how to put this system in place or some marketing stuff. And I spend 20 minutes with them on that stuff. But then the other 40 minutes they call, I'm like, okay, I'm like, let's close that window and let's talk about something else for a minute here. You know what I mean? And like, we start talking about why they're thinking about their business a certain way. And then they, and I could see these subtle changes in them in these shifts. And it's like, okay, now I'm doing something meaningful. You know what I mean?
Purpose. Yeah.
I might not be doing it with gym owners forever. We talked about this the other day. I probably won't do it with gym owners forever, because I feel like to just squeeze myself into that one little pocket, and especially when that pocket isn't always as grateful as you'd hope they'd be, right? Because there are some really, really cool and really, really talented people with a lot of potential in this space, but there's also a lot of people that are in it just because of circumstance, and they aren't really grateful for the position that they're in and want to take full advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
So I one day I'm sure I'll get a pull in a certain direction where I feel there's a pocket of people that will really appreciate the position that they're in and want to take it to another level, because, when I see with gym owners, at least, and why I think every gym owner is in an awesome position is because they can change lives. You know what I mean? I did it with my gym. my two gyms. And that's the thing I love the most about it, is it didn't make as much money as something else I could have been doing with my time, but I got to like help develop some serious relationships. There's going to be children born into this world because of the business I started. You know what I mean? Like, people got met and got married, and there's friendships, and there's a bunch of people we're still friends with now that like they still only hang out with people they met at the gym when we owned the gym. Their entire social circle. People moved here from out of state, found my gym, became friends with us, loved it so much they bought a house in the area, took a job in the area. Doctors, successful people, professionals. I could have gotten jobs anywhere. Like a few of my best friends are people that they were like, when they became friends with us at the gym and started building their social circle, they were like, we can go back to California, we can move to Florida, we can go to a lot of places, but I think we're going to stay here, and now they put roots down here. Right. So, when I see that, when I had that journey myself, like, and then I can serve $200 gyms or $1,000 gyms and help them do the same thing. Like, that's pretty impactful. Like that butterfly effect that we can create is pretty profound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. It's those bigger visions that I think take businesses to the next level and allow for growth beyond really where most people would say it's really viable. It's like, well, you're wrong. So yeah, yeah. Dude, that's awesome. So to wrap up real quick, your business is Big Little Gyms, and you serve gym owners and really kind of just help elevate them to the next level in their business, right? Did I sum that up pretty good?
you did. Yeah, you did good. Yeah, I mean, we do. There's a lot of things. It's kind of broad, but I'd say that's the end game, right? Like, whatever tools we got to use, whether it's, I know we're getting into, it sounds like a business pitch, and that's not what we're going to talk about, but it is a fabric of who I am and all that. But yeah, whether it is marketing tools and sales stuff, we got to use that stuff. Then it's a means to an end, but it's not all we're about. Like so many other people out there just perpetuating, get rich quick stuff. You know what I mean? It's really about making those big shifts. So yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, I will do the pitch, because I was attracted to you because of what I saw you putting out. And that's, and so as a past gym owner, I get it. And I know what's out there, and there's a lot of dude, there's a lot of garbage out there. There's a lot of guys selling blue sky that have never touched the sky. And I love hearing your story. And just for fathers out there, like, don't limit yourself. Like, and then the other message that really resounds with me is, look at it from a point of service. And that's where things really start to thrive. But, dude, yeah, I'll endorse you all day long. It's been really enjoyable chatting with you. I'm sure we could have probably gone in to detail on so many more things. Yeah, we'll put your info in the show notes, and look forward to watching Zoe and Jax grow through social media, probably in person at some point. And really appreciate having you on the show, man.
Of course, man. Yeah, of course. And if I could part with one last little thing, if that's okay.
You bet.
There's always like these little frameworks you can find out there for life that are usually founded around some like principle. When you think about like encapsulating all this and what we're trying to say, one of the ones I love the most is the Japanese have this framework called Ikigai. Have you heard of this one, Scott, or no?
Not.
Okay, so it's pretty impactful, and I always ask myself, it's essentially like it's kind of looks almost like a Venn diagram where there's like 4 bubbles and they're overlapping in the middle. And essentially in each of those 4 bubbles is a different like principle, and in the middle they all overlap to create Ikigai, which is like your reason for being. And like whenever you're going to do anything in life, whatever your purpose that you're going to set out to do, like for your work or whatever that thing is, like it should be it should encapsulate all 4 of those things to where in the middle it results in Ikigai. And what those 4 things are is, is it something that you're good at? Like, is it something that like you truly are like good at, that you could stand on your pedestal and be like, yeah, I'm good at this. Like, this is something I'm gifted at. Like, I get this. Right. And then number 2 is like, is it something that you love? Right. Do you love it? Because there is people that are good at something, but they don't love it. Right. Like, there's plenty of people doing things in their life that they went to school for, they developed the skills for, but they freaking hate it like that with every bit, but they do it because they have to do it because it results in a paycheck, right? So you got to love it. That's number 2. Number 3, is it something the world needs, right? Like, is this something that the world actually needs? Because a lot of things that you might love that you're good at, but the world doesn't really need it. It's really not that important. It's really not that desirable. It's more for you than it is for the world or whatever, right? Like, so does the world need this thing? And the fourth thing obviously is like, can you be paid for it, right? Like, can I manifest wealth as a result of like doing this thing? So we need wealth, right? Especially if we're like fathers and you're watching this, like your goal should be to build some sort of generational wealth, at least to a degree where like your kids can have the things maybe you didn't have, or can make some choices that you didn't have the choices to make yourself, right? So those are the four things I always ask myself. Like, is it good at it? Is it something I love? Is it something the world needs? And can I be paid for it? And if it does overlap all four of those things in a high degree, then I know I'm going in the right direction.
That's awesome. A lot of people will do things and move their entire direction towards there's only one or two of those meeting. It's either money or it's the others, and they don't realize that they have to have both. So love that concept. Ikigai. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate having you on the show.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me on, allowing me to chat for a little bit with you.
It's been awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, your family, and follow us on social media. If you are a father, make sure you join our Facebook group, the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more podcasts from the Brotherhood of Fatherhood.